Major League Baseball will never be the NBA.
Any moment can become.
In fact, what if I told you that baseball is becoming more like another global league, and it's exactly the opposite of what baseball fans want? Now, listen, I love the MLB. Baseball has always been my favorite sport ever since my earliest memories. Basketball, on the other hand, I grew to love later on, even when the Milwaukee Bucks were the laughing stock of the league and you could find free tickets on the ground outside of the Bradley Center. This video is not an indictment on any team in any league, by the way. I'm making this video because I love baseball, and I just want to call into question the system which the league operates. So, which of these does baseball sound more like? The last 6 seasons in the NBA, we've had 6 different champions: Boston, Denver, Golden State, Milwaukee, the LA Lakers, and the Toronto Raptors. Now, let's look at another major global league where only 6 different teams have won a title since 2000. 7 if you go back to the 1992 season, and 6 of the last 7 seasons were won by the same club. I'm talking about the English Premier League. Major League Baseball's lack of a salary cap is leading to a growing financial divide that threatens to turn the sport into something dangerously similar to English soccer. Rich clubs dominate, while smaller markets are left with little to hope. If the MLB keeps heading in this direction, we could be watching the same story unfold here in America's pastime. So let's dive into what sets these leagues apart in terms of the financials. The NBA operates under a salary cap system designed to maintain competitive balance. While there are exceptions like luxury taxes and max contracts for star players, the cap ensures that even small market teams can retain and build around their stars. Take Giannis Antetokounmpo of my Milwaukee Bucks, who were able to sign Giannis to a super max contract extension worth 5 years, $228 million in 2020. This cap-based incentive encouraged the Bucks to keep their superstar and continue building a championship team, leading them to a 2021 NBA title. And then last year, he signed a follow-up extension of 3 years and over $175 million. Compare that to the MLB. There's no salary cap to regulate spending. For small market teams like the Tampa Bay Rays, keeping their top players long-term is often impossible. The Rays, despite having consistent success, have to trade away stars like Blake Snell, who were dealt to the Padres in 2020 after winning the AL Cy Young Award just 2 years earlier. The Milwaukee Brewers had to send Corbin Burnes, a consistent Cy Young Award nominee, for players who are good but unproven. In a system without spending controls, these smaller clubs can't afford to match the massive contracts that big market teams can offer. So they need to trade away these players and get something in return without the risk of losing them for nothing. And it's not just in the MLB. This is the reason baseball is heading the route of the Premier League. As I was researching this, more and more similarities became apparent between the two leagues. Clubs like Leicester City, who pulled off a miraculous title run in 2016, are extreme exceptions in a league otherwise dominated by big spenders. Without salary restrictions, clubs like Manchester City and Chelsea and Man United can hoard talent by outbidding their smaller rivals, maintaining an almost insurmountable financial advantage. Since 2022, after the Chelsea Football Club was purchased by Todd Bowley and company, the Blues have spent over 1.32 billion euros with a B to acquire talent to compete in the league. Compare that to what the entire evaluation of Leicester City is, a measly. These free market dynamics leave small market teams in baseball and English soccer facing the same dilemma. Trade their stars while they still hold value, or risk losing them for nothing when the big market clubs inevitably come calling. Here's another comparison for you. Remember Todd Bowley? He also co-owns the Los Angeles Dodgers. And during the 2023 offseason, the Dodgers spent $1.21 billion, again with a B, on offseason acquisitions, with over $1 billion of that coming on just 2 players, Shohei Ohtani at $700 million and Yamamoto Yoshinobu at $325 million. So while the NBA's salary cap helps the smallest markets to retain their talent and stay competitive, MLB and the other major leagues' free market approach allows the richest clubs to monopolize the talent pool. Now I know a common rebuttal to all of this is, well, owners should just spend more. And this is not a knock against the teams willing to spend. It's a knock on the system to to keep a competitive balance just like the NBA and NFL. And sure, it sounds simple enough on paper to say, hey, these owners should spend more. And yeah, they absolutely could spend more. But it's important to understand that big market teams have significantly larger budgets. But for small market teams, it's a completely different story. Owners can't simply write a blank check year after year without a sustainable income stream to support it. If the financial gap continues to grow, these smaller market clubs are going to face themselves unable to hold on to their top talent. And we're seeing it already. And guess what? Their fans are going to feel it the most. Why invest in a jersey if you know your favorite player will be gone in a year or two? It's hard for fans to stay loyal, come to the ballpark year in and year out when their stars are being traded away. Back in the day, players often spent their entire careers with one team. Think about legends like Cal Ripken Jr., Tony Gwynn, George Brett, icons who are synonymous with their franchises. Now that kind of loyalty is almost unheard of in baseball. This year's World Series between the Yankees and the Dodgers is almost a perfect example. There are 5 former MVPs on the team's 2 rosters: Giancarlo Stanton, Aaron Judge, Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, and Shohei Ohtani. 4 of these 5 started with other teams. And just as a fun side note, because I love baseball, according to Elias Sports, if all 5 play in a game, which is to be expected, it will be the most former MVPs ever playing in one World Series. It's an exciting thing to watch for sure, but it's also a clear indicator of where baseball is heading. The rich clubs are hoarding the stars, while the smaller teams struggle to retain the best players. Let's take a look at the World Series winners since 2015 and talk about their markets. 2015, the Kansas City Royals won. Since then, the Chicago Cubs, Houston Astros, Boston Red Sox, Washington Nationals, LA Dodgers, Atlanta Braves, Houston Astros, Texas Rangers, and either the New York Yankees or LA Dodgers win the 2024 World Series. Now what's interesting here is that most of these teams are in large markets. Most of these teams had a top 10 payroll in baseball. Other than the 2015 Royals, these are large markets. And this is what baseball has going for it in comparison to the Premier League. In the Premier League, if a small market club somehow makes it into the top 4, it already feels like a major victory. Winning the title is literally almost out of the question due to the financial disparity. But in Major League Baseball, once you're in the playoffs, anything can happen. The variability in baseball is so wild that the best team in terms of record or payroll actually wins out in each series only about half the time. We've seen underdogs like the 2015 Royals go on to win it all despite not being at the top of the payroll list. That's the magic of the MLB postseason. But if this trend continues and payrolls continue to separate, we're going to see the big spenders consistently make deeper playoff runs year in and year out. It's not a bad thing to see the Yankees and Dodgers play. In fact, it is fun every once in a while, right? You get to see stars like Aaron Judge and Shohei Ohtani on the biggest stage. But it's when it's year in and year out that you see the Astros and the Yankees and the Dodgers and the Phillies have the resources to stay competitive year in, year out, buy the players that they need, and weather injuries by hoarding talent. Meanwhile, small market teams like the Brewers, Royals, Rays have to put together great seasons and get lucky just to have a shot. And with that variability, the chances of seeing another Cinderella story continue to become slimmer. If this financial divide continues to grow, we might end up seeing fewer and fewer small market teams even make it to the playoffs, let alone win the World Series. And that's where baseball risks losing what makes its postseason so special. The unpredictability and the hope that once October arrives, anything can happen. Again, I'm a die-hard baseball fan at heart, and it sucks watching the game die off a little bit. But it is easy to see why, right? Baseball tried to improve by banning shifts, implementing the pitch clock to speed games up, but the future is truly in a worse spot as only a handful of teams will continue to compete year in and year out. And while your Cinderella teams have to be perfect with perfect luck in the playoffs. 9 of the last 12 World Series have been amongst the bottom 10 least watched World Series since 1968, with 2020 and 2023 being the only ones below 10 million viewers. The intrigue and the excitement of new teams having the opportunity to hoist the trophy will draw fans in, and we will be sorely missing that here soon if nothing changes. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and watch this video right here that YouTube thinks you'll enjoy. Thanks so much. We'll see you next time.